Welcome friends, family, faculty, and the class of 2012. It really feels good to be on this stage. 15 years ago when I attended Rio as a college freshman / high school senior, I was certain that 4 years later I'd be graduating on this stage. That of course wasn't the case that I would graduate from Rio 4 years later. My journey was much different than I had originally planned. You'll find that it's very important in your life to pivot when necessary. I learned so much from my experiences here at Rio. I was fortunate enough to attend as a post-secondary option student. The upside of that is the great state of Ohio paid my tuition and my books. I got to attend college for free. The downside is I didn't quite hit my growth spurt yet, so I was about 5'2", 200 pounds, which is great for landing roles in the university's performance of Charlotte's Web, but not so great for getting dates. My third year in Rio was a little more difficult. The state stopped paying for school, so I had to figure out a way to pay for it myself. So I pivoted. I worked many jobs as I could here in the local area. I worked at Foodland, I worked at Shake Shop, if you're familiar with those places. I saved up as much as I could. I even worked at Cedar Point for a summer. I saved up enough money to go to one semester at Miami University. And I knew in order to continue to go to college, I would need to get a scholarship. And I had always wanted to be in the Air Force. I always wanted to be an intelligence officer. So I chose to join Air Force ROTC to try to earn a scholarship. I had one semester to earn that scholarship. If I didn't, my college days were over. And to do that, I had to lose 60 pounds, so that was a little difficult. But with a lot of green beans and running and dedication to my schoolwork, I got the scholarship and was able to complete college. I graduated from Miami University and I joined the Air Force as a second lieutenant. And then I embarked on my career as a military intelligence officer. During my military career, I learned everything I know about technology, national defense, national security, and entrepreneurship. It was a great experience, and I applaud all the veterans in the audience, all of the veterans in Iraq and Afghanistan right now, and all the veterans overseas. Anyone wearing the red, white, and blue ribbon, I applaud you. During my time in the Air Force, I did 4 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. So most of my time in the Air Force was spent overseas fighting wars for the United States. I learned a lot about national security, like I said earlier, and I learned a lot about intelligence collection and dissemination. So what does that mean? Basically, I had a lot of data that I had to go find. I had to make sense of all that data, and then I had to present that data in a way that commanders and decision makers could use to prosecute targets on the battlefield. That was a unique skill that only a few had, and I knew that that skill needed to be proliferated in order for us to have a lasting effect on national security. That leads us to some of our initiatives here at Rio Grande with the Rio Sense program, like Gary mentioned. So I spent most of my career in the Air Force actually at the National Security Agency. That's what took me to Baltimore and why I live in Baltimore now with my wife and daughter. All of the deployments that I made over to Iraq and Afghanistan were difficult. And I knew I wanted to start a family. That was very important to my wife and I. So I pivoted again. I got out of the military and started my first company. This company was aimed at building cellular communication systems for the military. When I was overseas, I noticed that while we used iPhones and smartphones to communicate, that we couldn't use that while we were deployed. So soldiers were still using walkie-talkies essentially. So we created a full cellular network in a box. We put that cellular network on tactical vehicles, and we were able to pass information, intelligence data, targeting information, and communications data in real time on the battlefield. That company was wildly successful. We also have a nonprofit foundation focused on technology education called the Digital Harbor Foundation, which we founded, which is also being successful and training teachers on how to teach technology and training students about technology, and also helping them land jobs after they graduate. So I knew I wanted to, early on, I knew I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. That was my goal. But recently, I've started to reevaluate those goals. And I've started to focus on making big impacts to more than just my personal bank account.